The community for XRP claims that Ripple's CTO is advising against selling XRP data. The headline from Crypto Basic mentions none other than David Schwartz, the CTO of Ripple and co-creator of XRP and the XRP ledger. However, does he genuinely advise the XRP community not to sell their XRP? No, I would argue. That's what this is genuinely about, in my opinion, and it's fine and engaging all the same. If you believe he's urging you not to sell your XRP, some folks might disagree. That seems absurd to me, yet it's more of a cautionary tale about the idea of selling something too soon. But first, just to be clear, before we go any further, I have no prior further experience of any type. I'm not a financial advisor, and you shouldn't buy or sell anything. Anything because of what I say or am correct. I'm just a hobbyist who likes to create YouTube videos about crypto-related subjects for fun. Before we get started, let me clarify a few things regarding selling. Very soon, no one will be able to locate a market. Will peak, and depending on the asset you're talking about, it might not even be cryptocurrency if you're just discussing a particular market cycle. Here, I'm only talking in abstract terms. You can tell that it's running up, but I'm not sure if it will peak. Just because a chart displays a parabolic shape doesn't mean that it will always remain that way. Does it simply go to zero forever, once more? For crying out loud, certain cryptocurrencies move in tandem with the market despite this. In 2017, they reached their highest point ever. And in the previous cycle, they didn't genuinely do the same thing even if they followed the same direction. Thus, considering the given that men may regret selling and watch what happens to price activity, it is generally foolish and unfair to sell too fast. I will understand that later. I recognize that, but let's be honest, most of it is irrational. Let's examine the content of this article. As follows, XRP community members have discovered a covert message cautioning against selling XRP too soon. In the wake of Ripple CTO David Schwartz's recent revelation, Schwartz recently tweeted about a terrible investment choice he made with his Ethereum portfolio several years ago. Let several write in. As many of you know, I sold 40,000 Ethereum for roughly $1 to place solar panels on a house I no longer own that was worth over $100 million shortly after. So folks, this is what he shared on social forum X. This has to have happened a long time ago. I was browsing Livecoin when I decided to watch, and I pulled up the all-time price chart. This indicates that it happened in 2015, possibly even before the first half. Since I was scrolling through, you can see that I'm sort of scrolling if you look at the screen. Through pricing changes from 2015 to 2016. And as you can see, it was already beginning to run a little in 2016. I don't think it ever dropped to that price level, so as you can see, this has to have been in 2015. For example, on September 17, 2015, it was 87 cents. After that, you may travel to, say, October 8th. It was 59 cents in 2015. Is that even possible to imagine? Purchasing ETH for 59C, but can you imagine purchasing XRP for pennies? That was also a penny. You get the idea. Let me go ahead and fast forward a little bit so you can see. Further on, yes, on January 17, 2016, the very first day of the following year, it was already up to $125. And then you fast forward to this point. You grow. You have grown roughly $13 to $14, so I know David Schwartz has been in here, so it must have been 2015. From the early days of the cryptocurrency industry, yes, and so on. Indeed, you might be thinking, he sold 40,000 each. For $1, he now has $40,000. You may think it sounds fantastic at the moment. I have seen him discuss this topic previously, but this is a completely new dialogue. I just shared this yesterday, but I called him because I've seen him discuss this in the past. Declaring at the time, well, not exactly at that moment, that this was the first time I had seen him discuss it. That at the time, it seemed like a fantastic deal because, well, he would have first put it in, whatever the amount was. Up to X some hey, it's $40,000 now. This seems like a huge profit, so naturally, there's nothing wrong with his taking a little profit. You just have to realize that even though something is tempting to you right now, you shouldn't punish yourself for not knowing the lotto numbers that won last week because that's not how things work and it's not reasonable right now. You know, people are going to act in this way. After selling XRP, people will look back on the transaction in the future, adding something like, "Oh my, I miss having so-and-so amount of XRP I had previously, possibly even tens of thousands of XRP, if you will. And now run to $50, or whatever it runs out to be, and my God. If I had just hung on for a little bit longer, millions more would have been mine." And I recognize that people have a tendency to want to tend to a pointless endeavor, so when I sell, I do so with the assumption that, if I'm correct, it will probably be worth much more in the future. On the long-term viability of XRP. Yes, so I expect that even if Expectacle continues, it will benefit the other people who persisted even though they made far more money than I did. That is what I mean. I won't berate myself, I promise. Though I'll wait to let you know that you are aware of CU because I most certainly am not. Nothing rises on a straight path. Everything won't rise in a straight line forever, just like there are adjustments. It is certain that if it doesn't, it will be the first time in history that something like that's not to say that nothing ever rises straight up. In fact, there are no examples of anything that doesn't. The only question is how far it falls, but if you're referring to a parabolic advance, we're in short order. XRP is currently between $5 and $15. I'll be selling it, whatever it is. I'll just wait up there on the way up. Once it cradles her back down, I will pocket the profit and simply begin reinvesting at whatever the current approximate. That's my plan anyhow, to put it bluntly. The good news is that, despite your belief that it will never drop again, you can still disagree with me. That's absurd, in my opinion, as it has never occurred throughout history. However, even if you are correct, and I'm speaking about a parabolic advance, I will still sell because I'm content with the wealth that has changed my life. Selling XRP has impacted me, but that money isn't all I get out of it. I plan to put that money to use. Rather than just throwing it all away, I'll spend it on something I'll invest in, and it will grow even more. It will also be in preservation mode, which means it will be far more cautious than investing in cryptocurrency. Still, it makes sense to have preservation strategies in place after you reach life-changing cryptocurrency wealth. That makes sense, of course. You don't just keep taking chances, you know. Come on. David Schwartz claimed that, in an odd twist of events, my father essentially did the same thing. He indicated he had more to say on the matter. Following the move out of my elder siblings, my father spent a lot of money demolishing and renovating the massive house we were living in because my parents didn't need it, but it did require some work before it could be sold. The months it took to complete the renovation in the real estate market, prices rose. Blew up. He suffered a significant loss on the trade. But do you know how he paid for the renovations? The sale of his Apple products, as well as the purchase of a new home while the old one was refurbished. The stock rose by a factor of around 5. That same length of time, like a father and son, I suppose, and then he shared the image of his father that is currently displayed on your screen. Correct there, but see, this is a common occurrence. I don't think David Schwartz is beating himself up over it. I hope he isn't, because it wouldn't be reasonable for him to beat himself up over this, especially in the early going. It's not like you're stupid or bad or made some sort of horrible mistake, it's just that you don't know the future. And in an attempt to emphasize the point, please have a look at this. David Schwartz received a response from someone who typed $100 million, and it's true, if he had persisted, he would have soon accumulated $100 million in his account. In response, this man stated, 100 million. Can David Schwartz answered, "You still sleep at night," in what I believe to be a pretty damn sensible way. I mean, this is a once-in-a-species type of thing, and I've said that before, and it is the case that you're not going to have something like this. He claimed that everyone who has been in the crypto space since 2015 has stories like this. We could all have bought Bitcoin at $350 and sold it at $60,000 for a nice 170x in 6 years. I find it hard to believe this is happening. I mean, in theory, I could, but is there ever going to be something where, apart from that, there's this level of excitement and this much money is streaming in? Magical internet money, like you're not just going to have that again, that is a once-in-a-species event. Although I have my doubts, this isn't a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for cryptocurrency, we're living through it right now, so yes, jumping in those early years now is appropriate. Everyone was in the same situation. It's just a matter-of-fact statement that it's easier for us here in 2023, as we witnessed the likes of BlackRock diving into cryptocurrency, even if there was a lot more uncertainty back then. We find it simpler to say yes to it will always be here, of course, but in the first 4 to 5 years, especially in the last 3, it wasn't as definite. Some people were convinced that it would be, and they were correct, but there was a lot less assurance back then, and so on. Naturally, others were making money off of you. I have no idea how high it will go. There is no precedent for any of this, as it has never occurred before, so you can go back and say, in retrospect, well, okay, thank you. You people know that it's like Captain Hindsight from South Park when the Monday morning quarterback who helps says 0%. I'm talking about the episode, okay? Thank you. Because Captain Hindsight doesn't help us, you only need to. It's just like you, that's how I like it. Establish objectives for yourself that will be extremely alluring, and then simply go for them. If you sell, you hold yourself to the plan you put in place, and you hold yourself accountable. It sounded good at the time. Fantastic, you just made a ton of money, so don't look back, there are still opportunities. There will always be additional opportunity nevertheless, and how David Schwartz had, I'm not sure how much he may or may not have sold, but he made it known in public that this was many years ago. Declared in the open that he possessed 16 million XRP, that's not a secret, but, that wasn't given to him, he had to purchase that himself. I'm not sure how much he paid for it, but I'm not sure what he would have paid if it had been like half a penny back then. That's still like $80,000. I'm not sure whether he got it directly from the source or if there would have been a special offer. I simply know that Ripple claimed to have it, so maybe that's where it came from. Otherwise, if he purchased it on the free market, I'm not sure what he would have paid, $16 million, so perhaps something like I don't know again. I have no idea how much cryptocurrency he would own today, and I won't even try to guess. But can you even imagine how much crypto there would be? There are a ton of stories like that. For example, consider the early days of Bitcoin, when there were numerous people who owned thousands of coins that had no real value. Of course, that would be you at this moment. You would feel as though you had more money. If you simply held on to it at this point, then God, but who's going to do that? More than 10 years ago, by which I mean, Bitcoin is already almost 15 years old. Thus, it would have been quite irrational to anticipate that in this instance, but is he also? However, some people seem to think this is a secret message, and I did see several remarks in this vein. Even though I believe they were kidding, I wish they weren't. This is David Schwartz's way of saying, come on, man, hopefully, that's almost 0% of you, and don't sell XRP. That believe it's simply a matter of determining when is a reasonable time to hold, which is why, as I mentioned in the opening segment of the video, the notion of selling too soon is largely absurd and unreasonable because it's your decision. Whatever you want it to be, just go for it. If it ends up being worth significantly more in the future, there's no reason to kick yourself in the teeth later on. You all are free to disagree with my assessment, but in my opinion, he did nothing improper. I'm glad he has what he has. This isn't a negative or stupid thing. That is what it is, and sure, he would have clung to something if he had been able to see into the future with superpowers. It was as though you knew what the next set of winning lottery numbers were. You would purchase a ticket for this week's lottery. It doesn't matter since, as you might have seen, that gets us nowhere if anywhere, these days. You shouldn't buy or sell anything based on anything I say, because I'm not a financial advisor. Yes, that would be detrimental. Thought until our channel's next episode.